Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending if you are in the east or west. My name is Eduardo Mansur. I am the Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and I'm very pleased to greet you from Rome, Italy. It's a privilege to welcome you to this important event, and I'm humbled to be your moderator over the next 1.5 hours. Before we start, let me remind that all the audience today, sessions is being translated in 3 languages available in English, in 4, of course, in English, French, Russian, and Portuguese. If you are using the UVA platform, you can use the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen to change the language according to your preference or where you feel more comfortable. Please also keep an eye on the chat box on the right-hand side, because my colleague Barbara Fang here from Rome will be sharing additional information material during the session, including some key messages that I think will be of the interest of us all. You can also ask questions during the session. If you are in the UVA platform, you may have the Q&A questions that you want to place. And we'll have a team that will be paying attention to that and bring it to my attention for us to be able to try and answer it live as much as possible. Finally, you can continue the conversation on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, using the hashtag GLFAfrica. The objective of today's session is very important. We are introducing and launching an ambitious GEF-7 Sustainable Forest Management Impact Program for dryland sustainable landscapes. This is to achieve lasting transformation at scale in this outrageously important ecosystem, the Dryland program. Implemented currently in 11 countries across Africa and Asia, the program is being led by FAO in partnership with the IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the World Bank, the World Wildlife Fund, and the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought, UNCCD, the World Overview of Conservation Approaches and Technologies, our dear colleagues from WOCAT, and a range of regional global knowledge platforms, institutions, and governments. In short, this is a strong and unprecedented coalition of partners which can be further enhanced, hopefully, also through today's event. We will hear about the challenge that stakeholders face in managing their dryland landscapes sustainably at different scales, such fragile ecosystems that do require our particular attention to be sustainable and in all its 3 pillars, the social, the economic, and environmental one. We have to look at them at scale, global, regional, national, subnational, local, as well as the emerging opportunities and solutions to support through this initiative funded through the GEF-7 program. The session will comprise also a combination of presentations to introduce the programs to you, voices from practitioners dealing with day-to-day challenges in managing drylands, panel discussion by decision makers, followed by the key takeaway message and closing remarks. We are very honored to have the presence of Her Excellency, the Minister of Malawi, representing the government sector, and she will speak with us in a moment. We have also very important panelists that I will introduce to you in a minute. Without further delay, let's start with the opening session by welcoming the Director of Programs at the Global Environmental Facility from Washington, D.C., Mr. Gustavo Fonseca. We also have with us in the opening session, Madame Maria Helena Semedo, the Deputy Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Starting by our GEF colleague, Gustavo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, and hello, everybody, from wherever you are joining us from. It's a real pleasure for us and for me in particular to be here for this launch of the GEF-7 Drylands Impact Program with our partners, FAO, the lead agency in this program, as Eduardo mentioned, but also our partners in the implementation with IUCN, the World Bank, WWF, and several collaborative partners in cooperation, of course, with the UNCCD Secretariat. UNCCD is one of the conventions that the GEF serves as a financial mechanism. As you're aware, drylands are home to more than 2 billion people and contain 44% of the world's agricultural land that supports over half of the world's food production. Drylands also host the most fragile ecosystems on the planet, including 25% of all global biodiversity hotspots. And of course, with that, many threatened and endemic species. As Eduardo mentioned, this is outrageously important. Never heard about that qualifier you've been used to at drylands. But thank you, Eduardo. On the other hand, as you know, climate change, a growing population, and especially overgrazing of rangelands are posing environmental problems that are significant in these dryland areas, which is leading to land degradation. And in turn, this is affecting the livelihoods of 600 million smallholder farmers in this biome. So investing in sustainable management of drylands is becoming ever more urgent. It's also a good value proposition for the GEF, as dryland areas have the high potential for generating multiple environmental benefits and at the same time are crucial for local livelihoods. The GEF more and more is looking to finance projects that have a multi-sectoral approach to it and integration, since these problems are really systemic. They require systemic solutions that are not really bound to one environmental theme or one environmental convention. So this particular drylands program speaks directly to the objectives of all three Rio conventions. But GEF's engagement with drylands, it's not new. It started more than a decade ago. In what we call GEF-5, or the fifth replenishment period, we started working with the Great Green Wall Initiative, which for the first time brought a strategic approach to address land degradation and desertification in that region. And today, the Great Green Wall Initiative is thriving, and sustainable land management has become a means to transform livelihoods and landscapes in the Sahel. These efforts were followed by the GEF-6 integrated approach pilot on food security in Africa, which is a program that focuses on management of land, water, soils, trees, and genetic resources, also tackling food security specifically on drylands. The lessons that were learned from these previous efforts really are feeding into the other integrated approaches that bring countries and multiple sectors together. And this is all geared towards removing barriers to combat desertification, climate change, biodiversity, and to introduce sustainable development by involving all stakeholders. Therefore, all these lessons, all this legacy is being built into the GEF-7 impact program that we are launching here today with departments, with our partners, and it brings an integrated effort to address these multiple objectives across the three Rio conventions, as I mentioned earlier. This impact program also envisions drylands landscapes that are sustainably managed at a regional scale and that can be replicated globally. We managed to approve this, but our council approved the funding in June of 2019, $104.5 million in grants that is expected to leverage more than $800 million in expected co-finance. So this is a significant investment. The program with all its components and as we call child projects, which are the ones that implement concrete activities on the ground, has been prepared over the past 24 years. And we must not even have to remind ourselves that this happened in the context of a global pandemic. So this has been a Herculean effort to bring this to fruition, even though the challenge on the ground and being able to work with the partners has been really, really important. But despite all of this, we are here today. And I think that this is a record, time of preparation, given all the difficulties that everybody has had to encounter and to face to bring this project to the implementation stage. So I wish all the partners and stakeholders who are here with us today success in implementation of this program. We expect great results. The donors to the GEF also expect not only the great results, but also that this program can generate valuable lessons and tangible benefits for local communities and also for their livelihoods. And I hope the program will also be able to contribute to a green recovery process in the region as we start to tackle the pandemic and hopefully get to where we need to be in a much better shape and looking at what's happening on the ground with a different lens that doesn't take us back to where we were with all these environmental issues that we faced. And with all of this, the GEF continues to stand ready with all of you to support these efforts and other efforts in a similar vein. With that, I turn back the floor to you, Eduardo, and thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Gustavo. Fantastic introduction that gives us the frame and the commitment of GEF. Sorry for using an overstretched adjective when I mentioned the outrageous importance of Drylands. But there is no better place for us to be here, even if we are virtual, the Global Landscape Forum hosting us in Africa. As we know, drylands cover all continents in the planet, 40% of our land. If I'm sure that Byron from UNCCD will precise it for me if I'm wrong. But particularly the African colleagues are very sensitive to the importance, the fragility of the ecosystem, the dryland ecosystem, but also the richness, the cultural, biological richness there, and the threat that we have now by climate change, by the pandemic that you referred to, Gustavo. So really an important impact program. Thanks also for highlighting that this is a joint effort of the implementing partners, of the recipient countries, and the FAO is honored, humbled to be in the lead of this impact program. Without further ado, I'd like to invite the Deputy Director General of the FAO, Madame Maria Helena Semedo, for her opening remarks at this session. Madame Semedo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eduardo, and good morning, good afternoon to all. Honorable Minister, country representatives and land users, partners from the UN agencies and the scientific community, representatives from region and intergovernmental organization, dear panelists, friends from GEF Secretariat, GLF, UNCCD and FAO. A very warm welcome to all of you. Today is an exciting day, and it's really my pleasure to jointly open this important event with my colleague and friend, Gustavo Fonseca, as it has mentioned, with the objective to introduce the launch of the ambitious G7 Dryland Sustainable Landscape Impact Program, DSL-IP in short. Africa drylands are biodiversity hotspots, unique ecosystem, and home to 525 million people, the majority of whom rely on natural resources for their livelihoods and food security. The DSL-IP represents a major investment of the GEF to move upstream to address the key drivers of environmental degradation in the targeted drylands, which ultimately undermines the Sustainable Development Goals we are all working to achieve. But why this program is unique for us? First, it will focus on the intersecting challenges of sustaining production and the natural ecosystem, which are essential to sustainable production in landscapes that are fragile and highly vulnerable to climate change. Second, as a multifocal and integrated initiative, the DSL-IP will support countries in addressing common drylands management challenge and results in numerous benefits in areas of land degradation, biodiversity, and climate change, and improve livelihoods and food security. Third, the DSL-IP also includes important incentives for countries to collaborate across boundaries, regionally and globally, to extend impact well beyond 11 participating countries in Africa and Central Asia, namely through effective knowledge exchange, cross-sector and multi-level coordination and linkage to regional and global platform, as well as community of practices. Let me also add that the integrated nature of this program, and Gustavo has really explained why it is an integrated program, will not only help to break sectoral silos at the national level as a requirement to manage the targeted landscape more effectively, but will also provide a vehicle for FAO to work in a more integrated way across our technical division. It will also provide us an opportunity to break our internal silos. The timing of the DSL IP cannot be better in view of contributing to the United Nations Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, which, as you know, is led by FAO and UNEP, and which is really around the corner. Besides supporting the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular SDG 2 and 15, as well as contributing to the United Nations and United Nations Climate and Biodiversity Convention. The GEF has a big ambition with this program. The NCCD has big ambition for this program. The other partners also do, and so do we in FAO. And FAO is honored to lead the implementation process jointly with all partners. And we are ready to engage with you to achieve the anticipated transformational and lasting impact at scale for the benefits of our dryland community and planet at large. Finally, allow me to say a few words about our growing partnership with the GEF, and we are very proud of our partnership, and thank you, Gustavo, for the trust on FAO. I have personally watched the FAO-GEF program growing substantially in recent years, and I know firsthand of the demand from countries for FAO's technical support, a specialized GEF implementing agency. GEF is an increasingly important partner for FAO to support countries in meeting their priorities at the nexus between environment and sustainable development. We therefore stand ready and fully committed to further deepen the partnership with GEF and benefiting countries in the years to come. I wish you a very informative and productive event. I'm looking forward to the implementation of the program with its tangible and transformative results in close collaboration with all partners and for a better recovery from COVID-19. Thank you all. Back to you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you so much. I think in the reactions, you and Gustavo deserve our applause for the inspiring words. And thank you particularly for highlighting the importance of integration. The acronym we are using for this impact program is DSL-IP, right? The Dryland Sustainable Landscape Impact Program. I think we can also use the ICOM Dryland Sustainable Landscape Integrated Program because we should look at the impact and the need for integration for the ambition that you mentioned is with all us, with the partners that are responsible for the program, with the countries that are involved for the program. It's fantastic to see that dryland management, sustainable management of dryland landscapes has achieved this perspective that was born many years ago with the creation of the UNCCD and as one of the Rio Conventions, and now scale out to the interest of all the multilateral agreements and the SDGs. But let's know more about the DSL-IP, the Dryland Sustainable Landscapes Impact Program, Integrated Program, from its origin. I'm very honored to invite our colleague Ulrich Appel a senior environment specialist and focal point of the GEF-7 for this impact program to present it to us. Ulrich, I'm very honored to pass the floor to you. Let's know more about the DSSLM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, and greetings to everyone from the Global Environment Facility Secretariat here in Washington, D.C. I have the pleasure to present the Sustainable Landscapes Dryland program in a nutshell to you. And I hope you can all see the screen that I have shared. And the previous speakers have already alluded to that this is really a partnership effort by many partners involved here that you see here on the first slide. And all the other local partners, UNCCD, VOCAD, regional partners, but not also to forget our participating country governments of the 11 countries that are participating in the program. So I move to the next slide. And briefly introduce the goals and the objectives of the program. It is really the overarching goal is to achieve land degradation neutrality in poverty-stricken and fragile areas such as the drylands. And this is really in line with the UNCCD concepts on land degradation neutrality. And we have numerous objectives, one of which is, of course, to give access to finance for smallholders and small and medium enterprises, local communities that are making a living in the drylands, in these landscapes. And we really want to reduce vulnerability of the communities and the ecosystems and address this nexus, this really complex nexus of livelihood, of environment, climate change, the entire context in a landscape approach. And with that, we think we can really generate global environmental benefits because drylands have a huge potential to generate those global environmental benefits and at the same time also generate better livelihoods for local communities and smallholders. Here is a quick overview over the entire program. Mentioned already a 104 million GEF grant with 810 million in co-financing, 11 countries that you see here on the maps. And we have most of them here in Africa with Burkina Faso, Kenya, Tanzania, and then in the Southern Africa, Myombo region, we have a cluster of countries, Angola, Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. But we also have a cluster in Central Asia. Kazakhstan and Mongolia also joining this program and contribute their experience in managing steppe landscapes. On the right-hand side are some of the program targets that you see here, that you really see that this is a program which with a large scope, and we hope to achieve those targets in the course of the implementation over the next 5 to 6 years. And finally, on the last slide, I would like to explain why we need a programmatic approach in this program. It is really that we think by working together across boundaries, these issues that we want to address, these are common challenges in all those countries, in dryland countries, and by working together, learning together, sharing knowledge in platforms, we can achieve better results, we can have higher cost effectiveness, and really have greater impact. We want to mention, it was mentioned already, we want to apply an integrated approach, really that also the different ministries that are responsible in the landscapes come together. All the stakeholders come together, including local communities, civil society organizations. And in this way, we can really come to a conducive framework in the governance structure, and later can also move this to scale. And last but not least, the programmatic approach in the GEF is really enshrined in our project cycle. it is a modality that has evolved over the past decade, and it is really leading to better results, to a higher predictability in the funding, and to joint monitoring and working together, learning together, so that we all can achieve better impact. So this is in a nutshell, and I look forward to the continued presentations. And I stop sharing and hand back to our moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ulrich. I think it was excellent to get the overview of the impact program. And I hope that now the colleagues that are attending, we have more than 250 participants attending this session in the different platforms. I hope that they get motivated now to put up their questions. We are going to tease it with a video that will show us a little bit the impressions from the field, also the challenge that local communities face in managing the dryland landscapes in different ecoregions. We are going to look at the Miombo, the Mopane drylands in Southern Africa, and also some temperate grasslands in Central Asia. Massimo, can we get the video, please? A small glitch, we had no audio. I think is there a problem that we could reproduce it with audio? You could grasp that it's such a wonderful video, but it loses if we don't get the sound. So maybe the colleagues can check it in terms of the technical part, and we move on with our program, and we'll see it later in the session, if you bear with me. It's such a wonderful video. It's going to be also made available at the platform, at the different platforms you are using for the event. So you have the chance to look at it. I think you share with me the idea that Murphy's Law, you know, that if something may go wrong, it will go wrong, strikes particularly at events. This is, it happens. We tested it, it was working. For some reason, that is not working out the sound, but I think you could see the challenge. And they're not small. They are big challenge ahead of us. We could grasp from the image the importance when we say that we are dealing with an outrageous situation here, which is the sustainable management of drylands. which first were look at wastelands because they are drylands. They're definitely not wasteland. They're fantastic and rich ecosystems that need to be preserved, that need to be managed, that need to sustain the communities that live on their areas. Let's then move to advance in our program, praising the 250 plus participants that are with us, to listen to our panel discussion. The panel discussion will bring a deeper understanding of this challenge and also some solutions for dryland management. We are very honored to be here at the GLF Africa Drylands session. We are going to focus then on the African aspects, but of course the DSL IP, the impact program that we are launching today, is a global program that includes countries at this stage in Central Asia as well. Our panelists represent the various scales in which the DSL IP will operate, local, national, regional, and also global level. And we will start some perspectives from a country level. And I'm delighted to invite our first panelist, who's Mr. Frank Mutsukwa, who's speaking to us from Lusaka in Zambia. Zambia is not part yet of the DSL program, but the country lies in the heart of the Miombo landscape in Southern Africa, which is one of the ecosystems targeted by the DSL IP. And the challenge that managing these landscapes sustainably are similar across the neighboring countries in the Miombo woodlands. So Frank is the chairperson, let me introduce him quickly, of the Zambia National Forest Commodity Association, which is a non-profit farm and forest organization aiming at sustainably managing Miombo landscapes for the benefit of its members. It's about 2,000 members who are spread across 5 provinces in Zambia. Frank, what are the main challenges that local communities are facing in the Miombo landscapes in Zambia, and how can the transformation of associations such as the ZNFCA, the one that you are the chairperson, provide solutions that can be sustainable, that can be durable? And before passing the word to you, I would like to recognize amongst the presence of our 250 plus participants, we are very honored to have with us the presence of His Excellency, the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Environment of Angola, His Excellency Jomo Fortunato. Excelência, é grande prazer tê-lo aqui conosco, uma grande honra saber do interesse de Angola no seu nível para participar deste evento. O senhor é muito bem-vindo. Thank you very much. And now, yes, back to our panel, to Frank for his ideas on how we manage Miombo woodlands. Over to you, Frank.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful that I'm part of this great launch. I want to begin by saying that the landscape we are working on in Zambia comprises of agriculture, rangeland, and the surrounding Miombo forests, woodlands. Now, the landscape and the different land uses are interdependent, something we can see more evidently due to the change in climate that we are experiencing. To give an example, the change in rainfall pattern and the climate shocks are increasingly leading to an overall reduction in our agricultural productivity. Notably, rain-fed maize, which is still dominating our main staple crop in our country, contributing to food security, especially for our subsistence farmers. Now, this is enhancing the pressure on the surrounding woodlands forests, which acts as a safety net for our food security and to supplement livelihoods. Now, the problem that this has brought is that the management of resources is being done unsustainably. And this is further degrading the forests around our communities. The production of fuel wood, especially charcoal for domestic energy consumption, is one example. You know, poverty, low agricultural productivity, and lack of livelihood alternative is pushing especially our young people to the more lucrative charcoal businesses, you know, which doesn't require a high upfront investment. In turn, the degradation of our forests due to unsustainable charcoal production and the expansion of agricultural land and over usage of non-timber forest products diminishes our agricultural productivity due to loss of vital ecosystem services that the agricultural land depends on. This includes microclimate, soil fertility, pollination services, water retention. Now, this is a vicious cycle that our organization is trying to break. So far, Zambia has lost 1.87 million hectares of tree cover between 2000 to 2020, which is equivalent to a 7.8% decrease in the tree cover and 690 metric tons of CO2 emissions. Now, our organization, ZNFCA, which is supported by the Farm Forest Facility of the FAO, is offering services to our members, which include training in internal governance of producer groups, in business development and market linkages for more diverse, more sustainable, and more climate resilient agriculture forest value chains. The other thing that we're doing is lobbying for better policies and creating a space in the policy formulation process is also another example. So that our forest and farm producer organization, FPOs, their voice is heard as a key step to managing our resources. Our organization also supports knowledge transfer to our members, innovative land use practices. An example of such innovation is the formation of the Charcoal Association and corresponding introduction of regulatory framework, which allows this association to produce charcoal sustainably. The sustainable charcoal production of the, I beg your pardon, the sustainable production of the charcoal is further ensured through PGS, participatory guarantee system. Now, the PGS was originally developed for smallholder organic agriculture producers and is promoted by the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement. PGS provides a locally focused quality assurance system, which is based on active participation by stakeholders and is built on foundation of trust, social network, and knowledge exchange. It is much cheaper than third-party certification schemes and provides the need for incentives as well as guidelines and know-how for our members to produce sustainable charcoal under community forest management. Now, since the inception of the PGS as a pilot program in Choma, southern part of Zambia, there are notable positive results that has come out of that. We have seen tremendous regeneration of previous cut trees for sustainable charcoal production in Sikalonga area under the Chief Choma in Southern Province. Now, the good news is that the PGS has been recognized and welcomed by the government as it provides a first of a kind incentive mechanism for sustainable charcoal production in Zambia. The way forward is to actually upscale it as a national strategy. I would like to thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. Fascinating presentation. Spot to the spot on sustainable charcoal. How much is the percentage of charcoal in the energy matrix of the region that the association covers? 60%?
Something like, in fact, the percentage is not known. It could be higher than 60%.
I would expect at least 60, 70% to be around this. And it's a problem that's not going to leave us. So we have to look at sustainability for producing.
Definitely.
So it's a fantastic example that I wish you all the best. I know the size of the challenge that you are facing in producing sustainable charcoal in Miombo area, but it's also a product that does not get rotten, that has market, that has demand, so it can leverage the livelihoods of the people. Thank you so much. Now let's move to a more strategic decision-making panelist, Madam, Her Excellency, Honorable Nancy Tembo, the Minister of Forestry and Natural Resources of the Republic of Malawi. We are very honored to have you here with us, Madam. We know that you are facing big challenge in this Miombo woodlands that Frank just described to us. But I would like to put to you a question that's more strategic. We are all familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly in our region, in Southern Africa, the importance of the target 15.3, the land degradation neutrality that we are aiming at. Malawi is a densely populated country. Charcoal also plays a role in its energy matrix, but also the sustainable land use is a big challenge. So my question to you, Madam, we'd like to hear from you from the national point of view. What do you see as the main challenge, but also the main opportunities in managing dry land landscapes from the national point of view, with particularly reference to integrated landscape management for the achievement of this SDG target 15.3, the land degradation neutrality target? Honorable Nancy Tembo, very humble, very honored to give you the floor. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, moderator, and hello to all participants. Let me start by saying that for us in Malawi, the dryland landscapes are a very important component of the ecosystems. They are a source of rivers and streams that drain into Lake Malawi. These landscapes are a source of water for irrigation, grazing, and a reservoir for Malawi's biodiversity, with abundant species of animals and plants. Unfortunately, like Zambia, these dry landscapes are facing severe pressure from the needs of a rapidly growing population. Currently, Malawi has a population density of 200 people per square kilometer, growing at a rate of 2.6% per year. And the last census in 2018 puts the youth at 51% of that population, and most of them being under 18, and most of them being unemployed. The key drivers of deforestation and ecosystem degradation in Malawi are, just like Zambia again, charcoal making for cooking energy, since 80%, and for us it's 80%, in fact, slightly over 80% of the population using charcoal for cooking. And again, encroachment into our forest reserves by a very rapidly growing population for farming and housing construction. Major culprits of this degradation are the youth that engage in destructive activities in order to earn a living. And it is currently estimated that Malawi is losing 32,000 hectares of forest cover every year. We are committed to restoring the landscape. 4.5 million hectares of degraded forest landscape under the Bond Challenge and the FR 100 initiatives, and to achieve land degradation neutrality by 2030 countrywide. Our goal, therefore, is to halt the trend of land and forest degradation using various technologies as reflected in our national forest landscape restoration strategy. I am therefore delighted that the GEF-7 Dryland Sustainable Landscapes Program provides an opportunity for Malawi to achieve this goal, targeting the productive Miombo and Mopane landscapes of the Shire River Basin catchment areas. Any efforts that will involve multiple stakeholders to improve agricultural productivity while introducing green value chains such as beekeeping and value addition of agricultural products will reduce pressure on our forests and provide alternative livelihood opportunities to forest-dependent communities of the targeted districts. Furthermore, efforts are underway working with private sector and communities to upscale sustainable sources of cooking energy. One of the challenges which we observed during the landscape opportunities assessment was the lack of integrated planning and implementation in addressing landscape issues. This has resulted in small-scale and fragmented activities and duplicated efforts with minimum impact. The multi-stakeholder engagement which is being promoted in this project is therefore vital to avoid policy and legislative framework conflicts and achieve large-scale forest landscape restoration for a greater benefit. We are therefore very happy to have this in partnership with GEF-7, and we're looking forward to working with GEF-7 to improve on our landscape restoration. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam. You were very sharp in providing the challenge and the opportunities, and we share with you the importance of this GEF-7 program. Let me bring now another panelist from Southern Africa, directly from South Africa. I would like to invite Madam Sibongile Mavimbela, who's the Senior Program Officer of the Environment and Climate Change at the Secretariat for the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC, who can provide answers to questions and move on the regional level structures at the GEF-7 program. Sibongile, what opportunities do you see for regional, transboundary coordination and collaboration in addressing the challenge that dryland landscapes are facing in the SADC area?
Yes, good afternoon, good day, depending on where you are. My name is Bongile, as I've been introduced already. The SADC Secretariat has a sub-regional action program to combat desertification under our UNCCD portfolio, which was approved and endorsed by SADC ministers responsible for environment and natural resources in 2015. This program, we call it the SRAP. It was developed to respond to challenges of desertification, land degradation, and drought in the region. Now, as part of implementation of the SRAP, the SADC Ministers of Environment also approved the Great Green Wall strategy for the SADC region. So now we are adopting the Great Green Wall in the SADC region as it has been implemented for many years in the Sahara-Sahel region. The GGWI is meant to respond to the 3 Rio Conventions and address the challenges of desertification, climate change, and biodiversity loss, which the SADC region is very, very vulnerable to. Now, the Great Green Wall is not solely aimed to creating a forest across the region, despite being strongly focused on increasing vegetative land cover. It mainly comprises a set of integrated actions addressing the multi-sectoral problems affecting the lives of people in drylands and semi-arid zones. Now, these multi-sectoral and multi-dimensional actions address a wide range of concerns which we suffer from in the region, including drought management. Drought is very prominent in Botswana, Namibia, Angola, and South Africa. And it is also to enhance natural resource management, sustainability of rural productive systems, thereby addressing food insecurity. The Great Green Wall Southern Africa will also support ecosystems restoration programs in line with the needs of each of our 16 countries. The progress that we have made so far is that we have received support from GIZ to support the development of a national action plan for Botswana, which is how we are going to implement GGWI in each and every SADC country. SADC Secretariat has also signed a technical cooperation support TCP with FAO sub-regional office of in the Southern Africa area. And the purpose is to offer catalytic resources for further mobilization of resources and technical assistance from the initial steps towards cooperation, coordination, actions of the implementations of Great Green Wall Southern Africa. We are also finalizing a work plan so that we can monitor the implementation of the planned activities. And the TCP will also support the remaining member states of SADC in development of their NEPs. So since this is just a catalytic fund, we are looking forward to talking to GEF and other partners towards bringing in more resources for upscaling the Great Green Wall activities in the SADC region. Now, the GEF Dryland Impact Program, which is led by FAO, has clear synergies with the SADC Great Green Wall Initiative. The SADC provides the right platform for this DSLIP in view of upscaling and outscaling evidence and good practices to all the member states. This will also be relevant for transboundary management and adoption of a landscape approach to restoration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Mavimbela. I think you put the finger where it hurts when you mentioned the risks and the drought-prone areas in Southern Africa. Droughts respect no borders. The effects of droughts respect no borders. The impacts of droughts, 70–80% of them are on food production. And we have to address this issue in a regional perspective. It's an excellent entry point for you to demonstrate how dryland management require looking at national drought management plans and its integration regionally. And above all, with climate change, droughts are a natural phenomenon, natural climatic phenomenon. They existed forever on Earth, but with the climate change phenomenon we are living now through, they become more frequent and more severe. So they require a response on adaptation and on preparedness, above all, that I think you made reference to, which are very important for all of us. Thank you so much. I think to complete the set of panelists, we have another contribution that comes, let me see here in my program, from Mr. Ezekiel Mwakalukua, who's the chairperson of the Working Group on Dryland Forest and Agro-Silvopastoral Systems. He was not able to join us at this live, but he shared a video And in this video, Mr. Mwakalukwa tell us about opportunities to promote broad-based participation in sustainable land and forest management, increased recognition that existing knowledge documentation, monitoring of change and evaluation of impact should involve in a participatory process. The question we put to Mr. Mwakalukwa was, how does this newly developed understanding of integration fit within the mission and statement of the Committee on Forestry Working Group? And let's hear what he has to say to us.
Thank you, Eduardo, for your question. Indeed, the nature of drylands and their associated challenges vary widely across the world. Drylands cover wide geographical areas, and the population inhabiting them greatly depends on the sandy regions for livelihood enhancement and the assurance of food security. It is inherently important that this year's Global Industry Forum acknowledge and celebrate this extremely valuable landscape that, if taken care of, may truly have an impact on climate change resilience and on past pandemic recovery. Now, looking at this video and seeing all of the various stakeholders that are involved in this process of the GEF-7 impact program, as well as seeing how many events and conferences are being organized in these 2 days to discuss these regions and the people populating them, is truly inspiring. Now, for what concerns the COPA Working Group on Dryland Forest and the pastoral systems, its members identify the technical, socio-economic, and the institutional opportunities that may be utilized to enhance the scaling out of sustainable management options, considering the dryland context. The working group will take advantage of its diverse membership base across the different dryland regions and play a major role in the advancement and the success of the challenging process of scaling up and out of project impacts beyond the borders of the 11 participating countries and to other countries and regions. The goal is to create a bridge between other teams and initiatives and work beyond the 11 countries involved in this program. So, using the tools that this project is taking into account, and this participatory video approach, we manage to involve communities in all the stages of project implementation. Not only are these communities acting as a living archive of knowledge, but we also have the opportunity to bring their voices to higher arenas, consequently disseminating and strengthening South-South knowledge and helping to avoid further failure in saving the dryland ecosystems. It is time to link the scientific knowledge with the local knowledge, and this is what the working group will emphasize on and do. When policymakers use the best available evidence to help make policy decisions, the real impact can be achieved at all levels. We often think of evidence as scientific research and statistical data. While they're important, they make these topics and needs to be accessible only to a niche of people. A prime example was shown during this event, where local communities explained to us their situation and the challenges they are facing. These are the voices that need to come forward, and the working group will make use of its diverse membership in helping address those, together with the project team and the stakeholders. When it comes to policy, most people think about legislation, and that is an important type. But there are also many non-legislative types that are significant. For example, resource allocation or strategies. So in the ever-changing and progress-oriented world, we must constantly renew our way of working in order to ensure impact in our work in a way that may goes beyond business as usual approaches. And I can assure you, today's kickoff will soon be the beginning of something that will revive these regions, empower its communities, and ensure that the dryland regions are at the top of the agendas regarding sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think, again, we had the Murphy's Law in terms of the quality of the sound, getting the information from Mr. Mwakalukwa, who sent the video from Tanzania. And I don't know if I informed you sufficiently. He leads as a chairperson of the working group on dryland and agropastoral systems, which is an associated body of the FAO Committee on Forestry, COFO. So I will ask my colleagues to put more information on the chat if you want to know more about the working group and more about COFO itself, because the idea of this panel that we had was to have the country examples, starting by the Zambia case on sustainable charcoal management, on the strategic planning case represented by Her Excellency, the Minister of Environment of Energy of Malawi, then the regional approach from the SADC participant, and now the global way that we look at it at the COFO level. I hope that will motivate you to get for the excellent debate that we are having, and motivate you to put questions, comments, enrich the dialogue. I was, one parenthesis also would like to comment with you. Normally we start a meeting, we are very happy to start this meeting with more than 200 participants, and gradually participants go down. We are reaching about 500 now in the different platforms that the meeting is being disseminated. So it's very, very nice to see the interest that people want to raise, the interest that sustainable dryland management is raising amongst the audience. And we welcome all of you who are attending us from different parts of the world on this launching of the Dryland Sustainable Landscapes Impact Program, launching of the GEF-7 program. Now, let's try to make a small adjustment in the agenda and go back to the video that we didn't have the audio before, because the next session, we just finished the fourth part of the session today. The next one is the discussion of the program itself by the partner implementing agencies. And I think the video would put up the nice scenario, the challenge that we are facing. Massimo, could we try to get the video now, and then we will have the project coordinators talking to us about how the project contribute to addressing the issues? Perfect.
From the dry forests of South America to the steppes of Central Asia, dryland regions encompass a large variety of productive landscapes. They are home to more than 2 billion people and support over half of the world's food production. Almost half of Africa's land surface is considered drylands, home to 525 million people and hosting major biodiversity hotspots. But drylands are under threat and too often overlooked and assumed to be wasteland. With climate change, population growth, and growing livestock demand, desertification, deforestation, and biodiversity loss are increasing and must be halted. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has launched the Dryland Sustainable Landscapes Impact Program, funded by the Global Environment Facility to combat land degradation in drylands through sustainable interventions and pragmatic, multi-level collective action. Realizing that common challenges affect different communities and landscapes across dryland regions, the program calls upon stakeholders at all levels to collaborate in achieving positive change. Months before the program started, FAO established an initiative that uses participatory videos to capture the existing conditions and local adaptation strategies in targeted landscapes.
Mbulanda mailoko tuweka kawa mkiti wa nyono mkutu kwa njima mbili. Mini makala bro kwa kama ita meta kulosa kubali wala. La mini dos mini nyoko. Mbele kwa chupa moja ikoni nyoko momoda. On discussion ya chenye kolu la palo tukasi. Okachi pala pokano. Kariyo chichi ya puno. Ule kalikomo lokateba mani kwa litatu owa mutore wapalala. Echiwendiko kya andikule ko pamwe watokota echiwendiko pala ukautali pala ucho itule toka ma utole koka echikoli kani kautata wale
Ka bophara le ntse le ntsha dijo tse di sa lekaneng batho setse ba ikiwa ke phetogo ya loapi lefatshe le itemogela dipula tse di sa lekaneng kana merwalela mogote e re go ntse jalo baitseanape ba tla ka methale e mešwa ya go ntsha dijo jaaka temo ya tshomarelo mme ebile balemi ba o diragala
Metlhala mengwe ke rutilwe ke bone kana ke bona batho sa e rutiwang ya bone notes busy le ko Zambia kopana nayo jone ta passport kopana nayo it's very 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 good was happy busy on notes imali dela sai to wayo to mo kwa notes ayeme ya tama
difamara tsa rona re na le methale teng re ba kope gore ba e dirise mme ba na le e mengwe gape methale e leng gore ke a bone ya tlholego ya la ba go dileng ba e dirisa re introduce le mothale o mongwe o bidiwang wa go dirisa chilisi ya tobacco e leng gore yone ba dira dibloko mo ba di hisa
Community forestry esoterwe po mauvigari na nano po ya tuwamento le pangero ya community forestry ya tokwa po ya kano kukwatera po ezo kuti kukolha opo kuti kwa ambugare nezo zikare po radio kwa italiana tangu pamwe torongo kuna ngao mashongo na tango kuno mashongo ngatu manene katuno chendi yamo kutituka kutemonga ikumbe taikyo akantu kaene batira atulongesa ngi hauto po mwene muko chikanzo choma kuti hayatugo kukwatera na kwazi uko kuti kwa kotewa ni kwa kwatimo akupitina ndochile ngite yali nakuyam notokana tangu kitiya kwa kunoma ambiso beri na ipo matairo ngwana wa ina ye project kadiro kana ajana anya tamu kukala pone atungaka nuko kutina mukumbuka kankwana no pakena ntukiwe kutika kolokolo tyanga kitukomba pirata nuko kutoka ndino mbugare kaka kapulu lipirwana ne ndiye bimuna chenga mwe ndaza mukulia nyadi wonjoro kutoka dala ndisa ndi temnene mbeki konje totera ngato kote dikasiro kuli ni ndimu mwetike kwa
жердің мәселесіне келсек, жердің құнарлығы бітті, тоғыздан бастағанша осы одан бері уже 10 жылдан асып кетті онда. 2-3 жылдан мен сол жермен несіп жатырмын. Мына сементал мал алғасын жерде ол жерге жаңағы суданка да ектім, жетняк та ектім, шыққан жоқ олар.
Обладает обширными территориями пастбищных земель и занимает 5-е место в мире по площади пастбищ. Эти земли играют важную роль для социально-экономического развития сельских территорий и жизнеобеспечения сельских жителей, а также сохранения биоразнообразия окружающей среды. Однако за последние 100 лет деградация затронула 48 миллионов гектаров земель, и 38% из них – это пастбищные угодья. Проблема деградации пастбищных земель актуальна и для Актюбинской области.
Building from knowledge and experience on the ground, the Dryland Sustainable Landscapes Impact Program envisions a future where development challenges and environmental threats are tackled through informed decision-making that is enhanced by local to global knowledge exchange. The program will strengthen capacities to assess and monitor the resilience of dryland landscapes in 11 countries in Southern Africa, East and West Africa, and Central Asia. In support of the aims of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, the program introduces scalable, participatory, and transparent interventions on the ground to make dryland landscapes more sustainable and resilient, and to improve the livelihoods for local communities. FAO, GEF, and the program partners seek to reach more than 1 million direct beneficiaries and bring 12 million hectares of drylands under sustainable land management, reducing the emission of greenhouse gases by an estimated 34.6 million tons.
Thank you so much. I think it was very important for us to see the video, as the video is very inspiring and motivational. Totally my fault, colleagues. We are running out of time. As a moderator, I should get less enthusiastic with what we discuss and more to the program. We have only 20 minutes left, as the platform is allowed only to go up to 2:30 p.m. Rome time. We are in different time zones. So we still have some points to make here. I would like to encourage you to put your questions on the chat, and the colleagues are going to answer you directly on the chat. But as we present so well the impact program, the Dryland Sustainable Landscape Impact Program, I would like you to recognize the coordinators of the different units that are here. And I would like you to use no more than 10 minutes, because we still have two persons from UNCCD and FAO that would make an intervention at the end. Fritz-Jof Bostler, the interim coordinator from FAO, Jonathan Davis from the coordinator of the Global Dryland Initiative at the IUCN, and Nicole Harari, research scientist at the WOCAT. The floor is yours for a quick intervention, because it's very important for the audience that we have now to see the face and the name of those who coordinate the project. Fritz-Jof?
Yeah, thank you very much, Eduardo. Hello, everyone. Let me, in view of time, jump directly into the presentation. Sharing the screen, 1 second. I hope you can all see it. And so I'll try to be very brief. I will take some shortcuts now in view of time. But the question is, why is a global coordination project necessary? And Gustavo Fonseca actually, in his opening speech, provided some important hints. The GEF is moving towards bigger and more integrated programs involving multiple countries, multiple stakeholders. And the DSLRP is just one example of this approach, which will continue also in GEF-8. The advantages are quite clear in terms of a bigger impact that will go beyond the national boundaries. But there's also need to manage an increase of complexity of such programs, and to ensure effective coordination, and also knowledge transfers actually taking place. And that's the role of a global coordination project, or any coordination structure in GEF programs. So the main task of the DSLRP can be illustrated by using the first 3 letters. They are highlighted here. First of all, it provides the necessary glue to bring the 11 countries together. Sorry, I don't know, the glue box is missing. It was actually included. But it's very important. It's basically linking the 11 countries with each other. But then, as indicated, we also have another region. It's not only Africa. The theme of the GLF conference here today is in Africa, but we have additional countries, Kazakhstan and Mongolia, joining from Central Asia. So it's also important to link the Central Asian countries to the program. So that is one role of the Global Coordination Project. As Eduardo also indicated, and Mr. Samedo also highlighted, we're using the same glue basically also internally. So FAO is bringing different technical divisions together to work jointly in an integrated way. Since we are working with different land uses, so the integration of the different technical contributions is very important and key. Besides that, of course, coordination is very important. Coordination with the multiple partners that are involved in the project. in the program. So the coordination between the agencies, the GEF agencies, implementing agencies is one example for that, because everyone brings different comparative advantages to the table. And it's very important that we coordinate the different inputs for the benefit of the participating countries. Then, as we also have seen or heard during the session here today, the program will also leverage on existing platforms, existing knowledge platforms, inter-sectoral coordination, systems that are already in place. So it's not that we're going to duplicate efforts in the region. We're going to leverage on existing structures. So we heard Sibongile from SADC here today, highlighting SADC's work under the UNCCD portfolio, including the newly launched Great Green Wall Initiative in Southern Africa, which perfectly fits within the DSLIP overall objective. And we have other partners and platforms, regional platforms involved that the program will leverage and complement to. The integrated approach pilot on food security, resilient food system is one example, a GEF-6 integrated approach. 12 countries in Africa covered, 4 of them also overlap with the DSLIP. And then we have the Central Asian Countries Initiative for Land Management, which shares very similar objectives to the DSLIP in Central Asia. So the GCP will use those structures and those platforms to also achieve the overall goal, which is quite ambitious, because the impact of this program should go beyond the 11 countries that are participating. And for that purpose, the program will establish exchange mechanisms in each of the targeted ecoregion in order to have a greater impact, to involve additional countries. We have heard from Zambia and also from Malawi on a common management challenge with regards to the unsustainable charcoal production. So that's one example, and it's very common, and it's shared by all the other Myombo Mupana countries that are part of the program. So those structures will provide the right entry point in order to reach the scale which goes beyond, again, the 11 countries. So I hand over to John. This is also part of the ongoing coordination between us to elaborate more on the GCP, in particular with regards to the regional exchange structures. John, the floor is yours.
That's great. Thank you, Fridtjof. Thank you, Eduardo, and everybody else involved in this. And thanks to Ulrich and the GEF, of course, for supporting this important initiative. And of course, to the countries which we're partnering with. It's a great opportunity, I think, to strengthen and to scale up the work that those countries have been implementing. And I know that our country partners are very keen on this regional outreach and playing a role in expanding dryland restoration efforts within their region. I think that partially answers one of the questions that was raised about GEF-8. And I certainly think that we've got one eye already on what can emerge from this initiative in the future. And I certainly think our country partners would be keen to see further work on dryland restoration. As we heard earlier on, the drylands have been neglected in many ways, but there are some great initiatives around that have generated lessons and which have built some momentum. And this new initiative, I think, is a good reflection of that, and a more systematic approach to restoration and to sustainable land management in drylands. And that's a necessary step in building further action. We see this program as a catalyst for more public and private investment, as well as for stronger engagement with the people of the drylands. And that, I think, although this graphic text is small and there's a lot in there, I think it illustrates that quite well. The relationship between the global child project and the country projects. The global project has these 3 main elements that you can see on the left there, which are coordination, knowledge management, and monitoring. The second of these in detail, system-wide capacity development, knowledge management, stakeholder engagement, and outreach. That includes capacity development for country partners and for others, not only the country partners, as well as improving access to knowledge, exchange of knowledge, and building buy-in from other partners, from regional actors and from existing regional initiatives. We talk about these regional exchange mechanisms, although I think that our ambition is more than just regional exchange. Strengthening coordination, of course, it has an element of enhanced learning, but also enhanced dialogue within those regions. Dialogue under the UNCCD, for example. This is an important project for delivering the goals of land degradation neutrality in the target countries. Implementing ambitions under the Great Green Wall Initiative in Northern, Western and Southern Africa, and linking with the Central Asia countries through CASILM, of course with SADC, as we've already heard, and connecting with other integrated approaches of the GEF, such as the food security integrated pilot. And then in the project, there's also some specific knowledge gaps that have been highlighted. And I won't go into detail, but just very briefly, there are great opportunities for expanding the use of different types of conservation area in restoration. For example, indigenous and community conserved areas, connecting that with the management of production landscapes, strengthening the rights of land users. But also looking at different underrepresented aspects of dryland restoration, including the restoration of rangeland ecosystems, and also then looking at linkages to global and regional market opportunities for some key dryland value chains. There's an important role for these regional exchange mechanisms, and also for building capacity around these emerging innovations in dryland investment and dryland financing mechanisms. Maybe final comment is just to say that the project really reflects the need for more joined up thinking at all the levels, and that's something that we all advocate for through our kind of country projects. So this project really will have to practice what it preaches, and so keeping that in mind, we really want to reach out to partners through this launch event and encourage additional partners to contact us and to really start those conversations, get the ball rolling on that. I've rushed that because we're short of time, but thank you, Fritjof. Over to the next speaker.
Nicole, over to you, dear.
Yes, thank you very much. So I have 2 minutes, I think. Let me quickly rush through that. That was not, yeah, here we go. So thank you very much, Fritjof and Jonathan. We are happy as VOCAT, very happy to be part of it and support sustainable land management, knowledge management. You can just click through, Fritjof, so I will be faster. Just to highlight that as VOCAT is the global network on sustainable land management. We have a global platform that supports knowledge management with over 2,000 good practices. So we want to use this platform, make use of it and further enhance it. And so the idea is that VOCAT will support global, regional and national knowledge management activities. And I think I would like to highlight one word here. It's about durable impact. So how do we achieve durable impact in knowledge management? It's when we harmonize and standardize tools and methods, is when we provide open and easy access to data and knowledge. Durable impact is achieved when we co-develop knowledge, when we co-produce knowledge. So these are very, very important. And last but not least, of course, is we have to ensure equality, trust, and ownership in the knowledge management process. So these are just a few elements that I wanted to highlight when it comes to knowledge management. And what we will be doing together with all the partners is establishing communities of practice. You can just click one more, communities of practice contain a domain, a shared area of interest. So let's say land degradation neutrality. We build up a community around this shared domain. So we build up relationships, we foster discussion, we foster shared learning, as Jonathan has mentioned. So it's really important that we build up relationships between the different actors. And last but not least, the practice, of course. So the shared tools and methods and stories that we are using as part of this community of practice. So here is just an example of what we foresee for land degradation neutrality. I think important to highlight was also said in the video is the capacity building is also South-South training, global and regional exchange, but also exchange between scientists, experts, as well as implementers on the ground. So I will keep it at this back to you, Eduardo.
Much, Nicole. Very nice. You are sharp and to the point, and we recognize the WCAT tremendous potential and, of course, information to provide in its 29 years of work now this year. Is it correct? 29 years of documentation on sustainable land management. Fantastic work. We reached the end of our session now with the last part of it, which is the closure. And I'm very honored to have two magnificent colleagues here, Baron Orr, the lead scientist of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, and Mette Wilkie, the director of the Forest Division in FAO. Now you see the faces and names of everyone here that are responsible for put this on the ground, if and with the partners in the communities, in the areas, in the countries. That's the most important part. Baron, we would like to hear your final words briefly, because our session is, for my fault again, a bit over time. I would like to everyone to bear with us on the words that the colleagues asked me to ask you, how the impact program contributes to the national ambitions of the countries involved, and how does this align with the UNCCD land degradation neutrality strategies and land degradation neutrality target? Over to you, please.
Thanks. Thank you, Eduardo. So greetings to everybody from Bonn, Germany. As Eduardo said, I'm here to talk to you about the overall ambition that these countries have shown. And if we consider their land degradation neutrality targets, their ambition is truly ambitious. We're talking about, in total, 63.5 million hectares of land, which represents almost 15% of all global commitments that have been made to date under LDN. And that means 13 million of those are already in action in this impact program. And that underlines how crucial it is to take advantage of regional opportunities and resources, multi-sectoral coordination, and multi-stakeholder linkages from the landscape to the national levels, and then exchanging across these regions. We are learning how vital it is to have the entire enabling environment functioning in concert, which requires economic, social, and environmental policy harmonization and alignment. And it's a very, very important step. We are experiencing the value of strengthening cross-sectoral rural advisory services to capacitate land users for integrated, sustainable land and forestry management. We are learning both iteratively and formatively about learning, helping us track, review, and make course corrections that will be necessary to ensure success. Having two regions involved in this program has helped provide scenarios to guide decision makers and planners in identifying appropriate investment by comparing the costs and benefits against business as usual through a suite of LDN scenarios so that we can actually navigate the inevitable trade-offs inherent in land use decision-making. The impact program is supporting countries in the use of integrated landscape assessment tools and approaches that are aligning LDN and planning so that we can do the right things in the right places at the right scale. And last but not least, we sincerely hope that the lessons learned can build the foundation for scaling up and out under the 8th replenishment of the GEF, for the sake of land, for the sake of people, for the sake of our climate, and for the sake of nature. We need to replicate what works, and we need to do it as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Baron. We all get that the LDN targets are the framework targets for this impact program. So we are working together on this. Excellent points. And I share with you the ambition that we all have, including the colleagues from the GEF, that GEF-8 embraces, the donors in GEF-8 embraces what we are planting, the seed that we are planting here today. To close the event, my duty now ends here. Bear with me with a couple of more minutes because we have the last intervention of the session, which is done by my colleague, Mette Wilkie, Director of the Forestry Division in FAO. And together with Mette, we co-coordinate from FAO side the implementation of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. You have heard about it en passant. Mette will give you a bit more flesh on this. The questions that the colleagues asked me to put to you, Mette, in this closure is how does the impact program fit into the UN Decade, in the UN Decade, and the work that you are leading in the Forest Division, primarily focus on dryland landscapes, how this impact program feed in the overarching restoration commitments foreseen on the decade. With these words, I leave you with Mette Wilkie from the Forest Division of FAO.
Thank you, Eduardo, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. And since I'm the last speaker, let me just start by thanking all of today's speakers for sharing their thoughts and experiences with us. It's really been an inspiring event. What we've heard today leaves us in no doubt about the tremendous challenges African drylands are facing today, but also the fantastic opportunities that they hold, the commitments that already exist, and the optimism that by working together, we can change things for the better. We know that drylands are among the most degraded ecosystems on Earth. We urgently need to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of drylands and protect, manage, and restore them in a manner which benefit both nature and the livelihoods of the people that are depending on their resources. And that is actually the aim of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. But it's also why the program was established. It's a challenging program, but by being launched now and coordinating and coinciding with the kickoff of the UN Decade on Action and the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, there couldn't be a better time for this journey to start. As Ms. Semedo mentioned, and Eduardo as well, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration is co-led by FAO and UN Environment Program. But we also have the UN Convention to Combat Desertification and the Global Environment Facility as two of the global partners. So we're jointly making sure that we're taking advantage of the many synergies between this impact program and the UN Decade. So for example, we will use the decade to draw attention to the need for and the benefits of restoring the health and productivity of dryland ecosystems, and to highlight and promote the lessons learned of this impact with a vast network of organizations, private sector entities, investors, and individuals. Among the many things we're undertaking as part of this decade is to develop what we call a digital hub and a marketplace where we can showcase initiatives such as this one and help attract investors and other types of support. The official launch of the UN Decade will take place later this week, actually during the World Environment Day on Saturday, the 5th of June. And I hope that you've all noticed some of the very many events leading up to this day. I'd encourage you all to explore the website, which is called decadeonrestoration.org, and to sign up to become an active member of Generation Restoration. And lastly, let me just add that within the Forestry Division of FAO, we've been supporting countries to conserve and manage their drylands in a sustainable manner for decades. Most recently through support to the Great Green Wall and by establishing a multi-stakeholder working group on dryland forests and agro-civil pastoral systems. We're happy and proud of the work done already under the Drylands Impact Program, and very excited to continue with all of you to extend and strengthen support to this program and to the restoration of Africa's drylands. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Fantastic, Mette. Thank you so much. Thank you for all participants. We add up to 457 people until now in the 3 platforms. And I think after this session, we know that the challenge that was so big in the beginning of the session does not look as big as it is now, in that we are braced ready to embrace it because you're embracing together. Thank you very much, everyone. Generation Restoration, here we are.
Thank you, Eduardo. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Brilliant.
Open markets for underutilized crops of Africa. Our first product is called fonio. It's an ancient grain that grows in poor soil in the region called Sahel, and it has the particularity of being very, very nutritious, gluten-free, and even regenerates the soil because of its deep roots. And as a chef, I appreciate fonio because it's versatile and has quite a delicate flavor. We started distributing our brand of fonio, Yolele fonio, in the US a little over 3 years ago in one supermarket. And today, proud to say that we are distributed across the US in all the Whole Foods in America. In addition to other natural supermarkets, close to 2,000 supermarkets are distributing our brand of fonio. We hope to be at 3,000 by the end of 2021. We've added new flavors of fonio. We have pilafs now, different pilafs of fonio, all inspired by West African traditional recipes. We also launched our fonio chips, which are just in the market with different flavors, well, 4 different flavors of fonio chips, greens with moringa, dawa dawa, we call it Afro-funk, sea salt, plain sea salt, and the Dakar curry. And in addition to that, we also have fonio flour. So this venture that we have launched with Yolele, we believe is a model of development, and we invite you to also be creative and identify crops or products from your local context, local region, and find ways to open market for them in an innovative way. In doing so, you are not only saving biodiversity, but you are also bringing economic opportunities for smallholder farmers in your region. Thank you and have an excellent conference.